Episode 13, as I just said, unlucky for some, but not for us today. So we've got Terrence here, we've obviously got Joe. So I'd like to get into the topic of the conversation, which is obviously how networking can help your personal brand. But before we do so, Terrence, I think it'd be great for the people watching, listening, if you could introduce yourself briefly, what you do, and how you're going to add so much value to today's conversation.
So I'm a director of a digital marketing agency called Delivered Social. We're based in Guildford, but we've expanded into Portsmouth. My own sort of experience with personal branding is essentially I wouldn't have the job I do now without the personal branding that I've done through my career. Mm-hmm. Even though it's been hugely accidental, it's something now which is quite a hot topic, and it's something now which I know for a fact if I don't keep up that personal branding, it would affect us as an agency getting clients for sure.
100%. And I think what would be really good actually, Joe, is off camera you were kind of explaining how we were all in the room today, and I think it sets the scene because it really ties into the topic that we're talking about. So how did you and Terrence kind of come across each other?
Sure. So Terrence used to run a very popular restaurant in our local area of Southsea. We used to regularly go in there because of that warm welcome you get and the experience you get. We were actually both there as well with our old sales directors and colleagues at the time. And that's how we originally met Terrence. Now, I then saw Terrence more and more at these kind of networking events around the area, and then award ceremonies, which is another touch point today around like the networking side of things. And then, just more and more you start to engage with each other on social media platforms, and you notice there's kind of a real push from Terrence in particular. And I just welcomed the fact that we could get him on. So and definitely in his new position at Delivered Social as well, which is, I know, actually probably seems like a lot longer, but I couldn't believe it when Laurie said 6 months. It was a lot longer than that.
It feels a lot longer. It definitely feels like a lot longer, but loving it.
Love it. So to get into it, I know we're going to break things down into kind of 5 key pillars as we normally do. So to start at the very beginning, I wanted to just kind of hand this over to you, Terrence. Why is a personal brand important?
I mean, from my personal experience, like I said, I would not have the job I do now if it wasn't for personal branding. I'm a trustee for a charity as well. Again, that came from LinkedIn. That came from personal branding. The customers that we used to get at the restaurant, I used to get bookings generally from LinkedIn and Instagram on my personal accounts. I hated it at the time because I wasn't really focused on the personal branding aspect. I was just like business focused. Like I was getting bookings for the restaurant, fantastic. It's getting hotel bookings. It was soon as we saw the Beckett's brand started to get quite high recognition in local press and on television and in the media, I realised that people were coming to me rather than going to the business. And whenever we had private parties or a wedding or anything sort of big, they wanted to speak to me, which used to be annoying for me because I used to like sort of delegating to members of staff and giving them as training opportunities, but they wanted to speak to me because they're like, we've seen you here, we've seen you there, we want to deal with you. They almost didn't trust the fact that I had a great team behind me. They had to speak to me. So I think from a personal branding point, it's helped because I've been able to make connections during previous employment and previous jobs I've held and been able to bring them on as clients and deliver social. And it's completely accidental because it was not something which I was focused on years before. But I think now with social media growing so much, you almost have to have that presence. You want to be the first person people think of whenever they think about your industry.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things there. People would go to you, and I think back to all the times I even went there on like dates and stuff like that. I would always go, "Where's Terrence?" So I can understand how that probably feels. So
100%. You touched on social media, and actually I was going to say this, Joe, and put you on the spot a little bit. From the outside looking in, from an outside perspective, it feels as if you are putting an emphasis on your personal brand through social media outlets, so LinkedIn especially, and then also I think you're tapping into the world of Instagram. Well, that's the plan moving forward anyway. So why are you doing that? Why is that important?
I think you soon realise, I think some people start a business by accident off the back of a personal brand. Some people have to have someone that is a face of the company. my and Malcolm's relationship's great. We know our involvement in the business. However, I've naturally become more of a face than he is. But he's heavily involved in every decision. However, I think that also maybe my dedication of time to certain understanding what's working and what's not from the market research, and then my passion to then share that has probably put me in the face of the business. Now, my push on personal brand has dipped lately. There was a big push,
Why?
but there was not a restructured change, a refocus and strategy. When you're as young as us, and a lot of businesses relate to this, you realise that where you want to really kind of target, and then sometimes that takes time. And then we went through kind of a strat change with Alex Shrimpton, who you're familiar with as well. So he did a bit of kind of non-exec consultancy with us, and the reason why I asked him is because he's very similar in life journey to me, similar roles. So I just thought I'd have a second opinion. And then after re-identifying, it just took so much of my time away. But now I'm feeling the pain. I shared a post, and this is why this is well timed as well. This is to say, don't do what I did. You still make time for it, because I shared a podcast the other day, and I'm on every single podcast. The page is getting engagement. You know, Adam Weeks shares it. He gets 100 now likes, and his engagement levels, I think he's probably on about 5,000 views already. I have slacked of late. I share it. I'm under 10.
How'd that feel?
Horrible. And you know what? Like, you know, I was saying on the way back, and it's a time thing. I got to the point where it was very good. Probably not as quite in the region of Weeksy, but Adam Weeks, sorry. But you know, he's non-stop dedicated his time to his personal brand over the last probably 2 years at Big Tin Can, I reckon, or a year and a half he's been there, I think, I can't remember. And he is just non-stop getting engagement. There's a few things I'm going to touch upon. I'll use him as an example as well today, because some of the things he's done, it's just like, and I'm just sitting there, and it's comedy as well that he brings into it, but it's all relevant, and there's always like some form of tip or something at the end of it that people are like, great point and stuff like that, and acknowledging it. And that's not what I'm getting right now. But also there's our audience isn't doing it either. So that's why you're here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to actually ask you, to be fair, Terrence, I was having a snoop of your LinkedIn earlier today, and I saw a post, I think it was in Venice, and it was you with a rather large glass of beer. So I wanted to ask you, from a personal brand perspective, how far is too far?
It's a really good question. I think maybe before COVID, I don't think people were so personal in terms of what they posted. It's particularly on LinkedIn. It was very corporate. I did an exercise where I looked back on my old LinkedIn posts. It took ages to obviously scroll through, and I was looking at posts that I did 2 or 3 years ago. They are so robotic. It is not my voice, because it was so business focused. You know, this is what we're doing. Come join us. It was so boring and bland. For me, you need to have that personality. It needs to be me speaking. It needs to sound like me. And also, you know, obviously we all have our own private lives. So there's certain things which I don't put out there, but there's certain things where this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm doing. And I think when COVID obviously hit, we all went into our own shells, and then we wanted to speak to people. We wanted to engage. We want to know what people are doing in their own personal lives. It makes it relatable. You can relate with that person. And in any business, you're going to a company because you believe in the company you go into. People buy from people. So for me, I need to be that human person. But also, when you do turn up to networking events, for example, you've got an icebreaker instantly. From things like that, you know, it's, I saw you were in Venice. I saw you were here the other day, and it's instantly a gateway to start a conversation. It doesn't have to start with straight away, this is what I do, these are all the services I do, blah blah blah. You know, you have a natural way of just starting a conversation.
And I think to add to that, people eventually in conversations with me, which is a lot more difficult for me at these networking events, is because I start engaging with someone, and then 2 minutes into the conversation go, actually, I did see one of your podcasts. Whereas actually, if I was engaging more online with my audience and sharing it more as a personal brand, it might have been the opposite, where they come up to me straight away and gone, oh, I love your podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what am I doing? Why am I not sharing it more? So yeah, that's a good point. That it's just an easy way into the conversation that could lead to them, passing you a sale or being a sale.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And you touched upon, you kind of draw into the second area, Terrence, which is networking. So I wanted to ask you, Joe, if networking's so great and you can build your personal brand that way, why do so many people shy away from it?
Because they're pissed off with the bad networkers. I think.
Yeah.
That's why I shied away from it for years. I was fed up of people trying to be busy, selling to busy people, trying to sell. And it's like, and then that's quite complicated to get your head around, but there are a lot of events where people just try and elevate a pitch you straight away, and you're just like, you want to like grab them and just go, are you okay? Like, this is not okay. This approach is not okay. Networking is all about getting to know someone and understanding. And I think that's the main reason why people shy away from it. But I also feel that they need to be busy doing something else. Or they think something else is more important. Like I said, I felt like something else was more important. It was very important, but I didn't make time for the personal branding side, which is now impacting me. And it's actually, I need to now, do all of it and make time for all of it.
And you touched upon there, people being salesy and going and essentially not networking in its purest form. So, I mean, Terrence, what would you say then to people that say networking's pointless if I don't get a sale out of it?
It's the first thing that people probably say. It's like, oh, I'm not going again because I didn't get a sale. It's like, but that's not the point of it. It's a long-term thing, networking. And networking is as simple as, like I said, you guys came into the restaurant. That is technically a form of networking. We got to know each other through that. So that is the same way. It's a natural way. I've been in the same situation where you meet somebody who straight away is, this is what I do. This is how much are you interested? Here's my business card. Straight away, I'm put off straight away. If they engage with me in a natural manner and they want to discuss something which is topical, it makes more sense. You make that connection. And I think with networking, you do have certain people who are just, like you said, so salesy. They hit you like a train. Like it's.
And these people need to realise that the being able to sell me this pen shite is dead now, isn't it? Yeah. Like, come on, let's move on with the times. Let's just get a life and build a relationship like human beings. And I think people aren't adapting with that time, which we've already done a podcast on that. So
it's interesting what you're saying though, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud. And how much of that approach do you think is down to the fact that there's sales training, there's how do you close a deal, there's how do you do that, but there's no, to my experience anyway, there's no networking. This is how you network.
I think it depends on the person who's going and also their confidence, because you can tell some people in network events, they're sort of almost thrown in by their boss or whatever, like, oh, it's a networking event, off you go get us a sale. That's not the point. What you're doing by going to a network event, you're showing up, you're putting your business brand there, your name is there. One of the networking events I enjoy so much is Network My Club, because you get the guest list beforehand, so 24 hours in advance. If there is somebody that you thought, I really want to speak to that person, you've got that opportunity to, or you can make that introduction. But the reason I go to that one is because it's at a football club, so they naturally go to sports venues. I love my football, so straight away, if I got an excuse to go to Fratton Park, I'm there straight away. So, and again, it's the instant conversation start. When last time we went, Portsmouth were top of the league, so straight away the instant thing was, have you seen, we're top of the league, hopefully we're there in May. It's the natural way to sort of do things. There's some networking events which are so
rigid,
cliquey. It's almost like the school playground. You'll have certain people here, certain people there, and certain people here, and they'll all be. There's no value in it. There's no real networking done. There's no leads. There's no. It does make it completely pointless.
So aside from a sale or a lead or whatever it might be, what would you analyse as a successful event? So you go, you have conversations, you come home and you're thinking about it and you're digesting it and you say, that was a really good night. Why?
You're building trust for me. You're straight away. So if I can think, I'm not going to mention names, but if I fought with somebody and somebody said, could you make me a recommendation for this particular service? I can name probably about 10, 15 people in that particular industry, but the one who will stand out is the one, that person, she's lovely, or he's a really nice guy, go to him, not the person who came up to me saying, this is what I do, this is how much it's going to cost, not the person who really pissed me off before I even set foot in the room. So it's having that instant connection, it's having those trusted connections to make those referrals.
Well, the funniest thing is you mentioned that I've got a networking event on Friday, and I know we're going to talk about what to do in a bit.
Yeah.
But to touch upon it, you do need to be specific about where you spend your time in these networking events. And I know sometimes you won't know until you try it, but the paid ones are obviously hard to justify sometimes unless you know what you're getting. Whereas if you have visibility of who's going, so my one on Friday is just full of marketers. For me, that's gold. Because I know all of them marketers, bar 2 of their BDMs that are being sent that aren't going to be doing the same approach that I'm going to be doing, don't do what we do. So I know that I can build relationship with the other marketers for kind of that partnership where we refer each other work. And I know the majority of our partnerships, we don't charge them anything and they don't charge us. So, or pay commissions, etc. So I know that's valuable in my time. Whereas there's some events, like you said, that it's just hard to justify, isn't it? So
So to tap into that a bit more then in terms of like methods or prep that you might do. Say if you had a Kerdos employee going to a networking event and you wanted to make sure they had a great time or a productive time, what would you tell them to do in terms of preparation?
Okay, yeah, that's good. I thought I was being chucked under a bus there because I just sent the Portsmouth Awards winners lunch. I just looked at the list and I sent Jack, but I did still prep him. I feel bad now. Sorry, Jack. I'm not being rude. But I sent Jack but I prepared him and I said, look, just go in, explain who we are, why we won an award. And if there's any synergy with anyone, add them on LinkedIn after, connect with them, comment on the fact that it was good to see them, and then look if there's anything there that you think that might come from it. I mean, it was a free lunch that we had a representative show up to. That's I prepared him for it in a way that he needs to get the most out of it he can. In them scenarios, it's different. Awards evenings are different. That's how we probably built our kind of relationship is that. From the fact that we had a couple of beers at an event we thought was fixed.
More than a couple, I think.
But then on the other scale, let's talk about what we did today. So we did it networking in a slightly different way. So we looked at where all of our clients are going this year in terms of exhibitions, and we then reached out in a networking fashion to say that we're going to go and visit our client. We specialise in your industry. We don't want to sell to you. We're specific on saying that as well. Like, we're not going to sell to you. We just want to introduce ourselves. So when you are looking to grow, you know who we are. Every single one of them 20 meetings that we pre-arranged before going was having a great conversation with us. They now know of us. They're now in our ecosystem. Some of them have even progressed to the next stage, which is like, we might be talking at a good time. And that's because we prepared for our own form of networking. Now, if you did we get invited all the time, right? You get invited to loads of networking events, but I'm sure the first thing you do is industry specific. First of all, is this relevant to me and my time? Secondly, job title level, because you'll find that it's a lot of representatives rather than actual buying decision individuals that are going to these networking events. But Bradley runs what's the name of that event?
Network My Club.
Network My Club. So I know specifically he targets business owners or director level representatives, and it's a paid event, so people are getting a good experience. And then you've got the other end of the scale, which is Sales Confidence, James Ski, Adam Weeks, 30 grand a year membership, and they only bring people who have a need for certain services for free, like as an introductory. So he'll reach out and go, look, are you looking at these services? We only work with these size businesses. And then Adam would then go knowing that he's networking with people who might have that opportunity in the very near future. So there's lots of ways to do your prep. But say the first things first is this worth my time?
Mm-hmm.
I waffled on, sorry.
No, that's a really good answer. And actually, I wanted to kind of drill into one of the points that you mentioned. You said we did networking in our way, a different way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go into that with
I'm
you.
sure we're
actually,
not the first,
Terrence.
by the way.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, in terms of, I think a lot of the topic of conversation today surrounding networking has been in the sense of in-person networking, and that's not the only way to network. So I wanted to ask you, Terrence, what are some of the other varieties of networking that isn't necessarily just going to a dinner?
I mean, there are networking online on Zoom calls. I'm not a fan of it. I like it to be in person. I just think you get a lot more from it. I'm awful with video calls. After an hour, I'm bored. Like I just want to switch off. I need to be in person. I feel you get more engagement, but there are opportunities, and video calls are great because now I think we've realised that things can be accessible. You can have conversations with people at the other side of the country rather than going all the way up somewhere. So there is that opportunity. It's particularly, I think, if you're just branching out to networking, it could be a way just to sort of get your foot in the door, see what you think. But at the same time, for me, having a load of people on one screen, it just bores the hell out of me. I've tried one. I didn't like it. I knew I wouldn't like it. But for me, it's the ones that are in person. But I think everybody, you got to go. There's no one size fits all. You have to pick the event that fits for you. This particular network events which will work better for others than other people. And Joe's touched upon different sort of networking events as well. Yeah,
no, it's an interesting take. And actually, I'll be honest, what I was getting at there is that I think that you need to reimagine what you're doing, because a lot of people would say, oh, podcasting is just podcasting. But in my opinion, podcasting is networking if you've never met that person that you're having a conversation with. So it's a case of, okay, so you can have your podcast, you get someone different from the industry on every time, and actually that is a form of networking.
Well, you only have to look at the comments you get. Like your network's just growing by the minute. You in your personal world, do you know what I mean, man? It's blowing up.
No, stop.
Maybe we should be asking you the question. We should.
Too kind. But one thing that you mentioned earlier, Terrence, was kind of approaching things in the wrong way, being salesy. What are the negative long-term effects of going to networking events and being that guy?
I wouldn't recommend them. That's the honest truth. If somebody said, could you recommend someone for a service, I wouldn't recommend them, but they would come to mind thinking, definitely don't go to this person. Like they'll just annoy the shit out of you. So that would be my take from it.
How much of a real life scenario is that?
I think you get referred if you're good. I think if you're bad, people do shy away from you. And the problem is, particularly in Portsmouth, it's such a small community. You piss off one person, you're going to piss off quite a few, and you get a name for yourself. So that's the problem you have. If you put that negative spin on things, it can hit not just yourself, your personal brand, but also your business brand as well.
Why are you smiling, Joe?
I was just trying to word this without dropping a name. So scenario, we met someone, really nice guy, and who was using someone's services that was actually a client of ours at one point. And they noticed that we engaged with their posts probably 6 months prior to the fact that he brought this up. We stopped working with them because they owed us money, and it got a bit better. We don't communicate with them anymore. We just said, look, you go and do your thing now. And then our friend now, who we met in the networking world, has brought it up, and I'm not going to mention any names because obviously. But they said, oh, how do you know such and such? And I was like, I explained, said, but I didn't go into detail. I said they were a client, but not anymore. And the first thing he said was, not anymore. And I was like, And he was like, well, I'm going to tell you, I don't care whether you tell me. And basically he said that he had his fingers massively burnt, like charging him for a service that he wasn't even getting. And I was just sat there like, wow, I'm not even surprised. And actually the fact that is a negative impact of networking when that was in a bigger region than just Portsmouth, right? But the fact that individual brought it up to me meant that they trust me. And we've received several referrals from them with regards to our services because they trust us, and we've never tried to sell to him. And I think it's important And there's been a couple of times where they brought it up and we said like, oh, so, you know, how could you help me here? And I'm still like, I'm not going to sell to you. You tell me if I feel that you're ready for us, I'll tell you, and then we can have a proper conversation. But I'm not going to sell to you. And it is hard sometimes, isn't it? Because especially when you've been let's take Ian Gribble as an example, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone knows him around this area, and if he then all of a sudden expressed after many years that he's now looking for your services, it's almost hard to, isn't it? Because you've got to know him on a personal level and you've actually taken the time out, and it's then okay, you know, but you know that person, if you knew him on that personal level, would probably refer you to 10 other people in the next kind of 6 months. So, yes, it's strange how it works, but that's the negative impact of bad networking. Don't deliver on the service you originally sold, because then no one wants to work with you.
Yeah. To come away from the negatives and
Yeah.
to put a positive spin on it, who do you idolise in the networking world? Who's doing things well in your mind?
There are so many people. I'm trying to think. It's really difficult to pinpoint one person because there's so many. I'll tell you what. There's a guy who I'm going to, and it's got nothing to do with anything. It's so random. So his name's Paul. He has a cleaning company, and literally every Saturday he posts about Marmite.
Jack spoke about this.
Every single Saturday. Now, I love it. I think it's hilarious. It's the first thing I see on Saturday. It creases me up.
This is you know, this is featured on twice on our podcast.
It's amazing.
Now.
It's absolutely amazing. But if somebody now, if you said to me, "Oh, do you know an office cleaning company?" Yeah, Marmite Man. Like straight away. Like I don't know anything about the services he does. Obviously, the posts that he does do, which are about the services and products. But he's somebody that I would recommend, even though he doesn't. I'm not engaging with his posts about product services. It's the Marmite post on the Saturday because that's that personality there.
Yeah.
And then I was in the shop the other day. I saw like a new Marmite peanut butter. It came to my head. Like it was drilled in. It was there. So, I mean, that's a funny way, but at the same time, like I said, if somebody said, "Can you recommend a clip?" That's the first one that comes up.
That is unbelievable.
Sounds like Paul needs to deal with Marmite.
Jack referenced it in his pitch because we did some work with a cleaning company, and we thought, well, it was a good gig if you're targeting the right size businesses. And he thought, well, I like this guy, so I'm going to take a punt at him. But then he backed off the pitch side of things. He goes, I'm just going to build a relationship with him. And he was walking through Tesco's and he saw that Marmite released something new. So he actually took a picture of it, sent it to Paul and said, have you tried these yet, Paul? Because I know that you're obsessed. And he went, thanks, Jack. Not tried them yet. I'll give them a go, let you know. And he actually responded and said, I tried them and they were great. And but that's just unbelievable that you've referenced that. I've got a few idols.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask you actually because I know there's a few people on your pinboard when you go to sleep. So who you look at?
No, they're in a frame, up frame.
A shrine.
John Boston, unbelievable. I mean, this guy is just. He works for Sales Loft. They talk about Sales Loft a lot because they're doing everything right. It's a brand, cadences, everything, always referenced in them.
Good old cadences.
Yeah, good old. I had to slip that in there, didn't I? I'm getting bullied today. HR. So Tom Boston creates his funniest TikToks, and it's all about personal problems that salespeople face, but he creates like when no one answers a phone, and it's him going, hello, it's me. And it's like he's doing like an SDR piece, and he's like relating to SDRs, and he's doing funny videos, and he's always trying to relate to his audience in a humour way, a very, very funny way. His engagement levels through the roof. Now, I know that his organic traffic must be massive from a personal brand, but he is networking because then he responds to the comments.
How important is that?
Massively. I mean, it gets to the point where you're like Stephen Bartlett and you can't keep up after 10 minutes because there's 350 or whatever. But, Tom Boston, I think, responds or at least engages with every comment. And I'm sure that he makes a point of responding in a different manner to the ones that he's been building a relationship who are in his cadences, his pipeline and stuff. So, definitely check him out if you haven't already. Adam Weeks, great example. Like the way that he kind of network is, he spent £150 on that brand clothing, and then posted, and he's been trying to get trying to build this relationship with this guy in a big company he knows that has a need and knows that he wants to really work with in the future. And whether that's in a year or 2 years' time, his approach in an outbound is perfect. So he went, right, last hurrah. So he spent £150 on their brand clothing, and then took a picture of him on LinkedIn and said, this is my last attempt to try and book a 10-minute conversation with you because you're impossible. Tags him in it and say, I've purchased £150 worth of your brand clothing in an attempt to just get 10 minutes with you. It'd be great if you can come back to me. I won't keep your time too much, and if you do not have any need or intention right now, I'll let you get on your way. And the engagement was just ridiculous. What did he say? It was something like 150,000 people. Wow. It might even be more than that. Yeah. But like engagement levels and likes were like in the thousands, and his following probably went from like 4,000 to 8.8k following overnight. But then again, he was engaging with the people that was engaging. Everyone that he's been building relationships were liking it, commenting it. He became a familiar face and name. That's networking.
Yeah. And you're almost building your own support network just
100%.
through that. Yeah.
And I know now that he probably gets at least 2 or 3 people say, sales enablement, yeah, this is the guy. Yeah, because of what he's tried to do with his personal brand, which impacts the networking. And that's really what I'm trying to kind of grip on.
What I wanted to ask there is like all those methods and different approaches that you just mentioned are really, really inventive. So maybe to ask you, Terrence, how much of networking and personal branding from a successful perspective do you think is nature versus nurture? Do you think you're born being great at it, or do you think you can be taught and learn it?
I think you can be taught. I think now, because where it's such a hot topic, I think people are... they've cottoned on to, you need to sort of build your personal brand, and there are hints and tips, but you can spot it. If you're looking at social platforms, you can spot it when it's, I'm making this comment because I have to, rather than because I'm interested.
Yeah.
You can spot them straight away, particularly if they're really pointless comments like, wow, full stop. You know, there's no you're not going to get, there's no answer back. It's just, yeah, I've done that just to get my reach higher. Like I said, for mine, I didn't mean to build a personal brand. It was never the case to be the face of the brand. It just happened by accident. The problem is now I have to keep that up because people are like, oh, you're everywhere. You have to do this, you have to do that. As soon as I stop doing that, is he dead?
I think it's funny you mentioned about the comments. Terrence comments on our stuff quite a lot, but it'd always be quite funny.
It's banter, yeah.
Yeah. So when's the party? It often comes up on our comments, or
there's a theme coming.
Or where was my invite?
Yeah.
You know, say if we take a picture of us and Becky at our charity, it's always like, where was my invite? Or you know, if the champagne in the office when the girls were like holding the bottles and that, doing whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was, but yeah. Like comments again, so it's just Terrence is relevant to
present.
Yeah, it has to be personal. It can't just be I'm commenting because I want to get a reach. Obviously now people are cottoned onto the fact, I need to do this, I need to like things, I need to comment, and the problem is you'll get found out because eventually you'll stop doing it, or when you meet that person in person, you're nothing like that. You know, you set your way to networking so robotic. It's not personal. It's
and I don't know. I know someone's done it the other way around as well. So there's a guy who calls out people. Really? He actually calls out people. Yeah. So he literally goes onto their posts and is like, well, actually, not a competitor, but Ryan Thackeray works for one of the telemarketing agency. We kind of target different industries, but he have you seen these posts on LinkedIn? It's like rate my drawing and stuff like that, right? And Ryan Thackeray goes, copied and pasted from this link, and like calls them out.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And then you've got another guy who works in the recruitment world who literally comments sort of stuff and just like, this is completely false and here's why. It's just like, and this person must be at the other end going, oh my God, he's just ruined my life. But he gets like more likes than the actual post. You know what I mean? Sorry, that was a fly.
That's all right. One thing that you mentioned, Terrence, and the last thing that I actually want to drill into off the back of your answer, you said the problem is now I have to keep it up. And I sometimes think from a social media perspective, being active and being present and then in person as well is overlooked in terms of the work rate. So how hard is it to maintain that personal brand?
I find it harder speaking about the products and services. I mean, if you go onto my LinkedIn, I barely really speak about what we offer as a company delivered social. The most engagement are the things that I share about what's going on in Portsmouth, what the community is doing. If it's a friend who's got a press release, I'm sharing it. That gets more engagement because that shows my commitment to the city and what I want Portsmouth to be. So in terms of that, if I'm thinking, you know what, I don't know what to post, that's what I'm looking for, what's going on in the city. I get people that, they send me links going, do you mind sharing this? And if it's something that I believe in, I think, well, you know what, that's a great cause. Yeah, absolutely, I'll share it. But it's the keeping up. You need to show up to things. You need to be there. Because I think from a client acquisition point of view, if you're there and you're prominent, people want to be associated with you. So it's a chicken and egg sort of situation. You've made a rod for your own back, but at the same time, it's getting you business in.
Yeah. It's very good. And I think actually, we've spoken in the past about approach on the phone and almost not forcing somebody into meetings and demos and stuff. It's very much the same approach in the networking world. It's like, look, we now know about each other, and actually there will be the people that come back to you when they either need you or they'll be sat at a bar. In fact, someone called me up the other day and said, I hope you don't mind, I got your number from one of my old contacts at Cantian Business Solutions. And that was Market Makers days, right? I've seen Joe's posting a lot. Maybe he might be able to help. He still has my mobile number. I'm just sitting there scratching my head thinking, wow, I haven't even spoken to him in about 5-6 years. And it's like, and they literally contacted me out of the blue and said, I think you might be able to help me. Unfortunately, I couldn't. But that's like, maybe the podcast is like networking. Like they've, seeing our engagement, seeing what we're up to. Yeah. So yeah.
100% really important. I've pretty much gone through everything I wanted to go through actually. Okay. And I think from both sides it's been really, really interesting. But as I normally do, Joe, I'd love to hand things over to you for the final question.
All right. Maybe we should give it to you. Hate to put you on the spot here, Laurie.
Yeah.
That's always how you start.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
Okay, so how do you prepare? Or how do you prepare for networking events or decide whether that networking event is relevant to you?
I would probably assess a longer term goal. So I would probably look at, okay, so where do I want to get to eventually, not where am I right now, and do they fit into that trajectory? So are they going to help me get to where I want to go? But also I don't look at it from like a granular perspective, like can this person help me? I also look at, can the people that this person knows help me? Yeah. So sometimes what I actually look at is, because we're trying to build to the very top of the industry, okay, who does this person know? Okay, so they're the manager of this artist who knows Stormzy, who knows Jay-Z. So actually, if I start here, I can work my way up throughout a network. Because, I mean, if you go, I want to get in contact with Jay-Z tomorrow, it's never going to happen. But I think if you start smaller and work your way up. So I think for me it's about looking at the bigger picture, not just how can this person benefit me, it's how can the knock-on effect work. It's
funny you mentioned about that, because I was having exactly the same conversation with Amy Harfield. She's actually just she is probably one of the best professional makeup artists in the music industry right now. She's not as recognised as she should be, but she's doing that. So she'll go to one, she'll know what's networking, and then she may even offer a free trial, and then she's all of a sudden at Reading Festival with I forgot her name.
Jaguar Skills.
Jaguar Worldwide.
Oh, okay.
And then all of a sudden does a video of French Kid, and then Bakar messages like her, and then all of a sudden she's now talking to other big artists, which I'm not allowed to say, but yeah, again, that's like seriously good networking. But that started from one networking event that she went to, which led to one job where someone else was attending, and then that led to another job, and then she'll make a point of speaking to the photographer, the videographer, the hairstylists, she'll anyone else there, like any managers, artists, and she'll make a point of speaking to all of them. And then what she does, which she learned from me, is then add it to her own CRM. Let's just call it that. It's an Excel sheet. And then she'll just continue to nurture the relationship, and she'll even time date stamp them, just because she knows how important that networking ability is. So look, it's working.
100%.
She now earns more than me.
Joe's up.
I'm proud of her though.
No,
Cool.
amazing. Well, yeah, from my perspective, what a conversation. Really enjoyed
good.
it. So thanks for your presence, Terrence.
you.
I think it's really interesting
Yeah,
insights
appreciate
from both sides. So unless there's anything to add on either end.
Anything from you, Terrence?
I can't think. I can't get Marmite out of my head now. See, look, it's in my head. No, I don't think nothing else from me. I can't think of anything. I think we've covered a lot there, haven't we?
Alex is about to look at me. Subscribe. Yeah, make sure you subscribe and share. Please comment. Give us feedback. That'd be lovely. But yeah, other than that, it's a wrap.
Absolutely. Nice one.
Thanks,
Thanks
man.
guys.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.